My name is Emil, and welcome back to the Nicening. I'm finally getting back to painting the bed of my truck. I'll give you a tour of the massive amount of work I need to do. A bit of quick history here. This is not the original bed off this truck. This bed is off of a 79, and the truck is an 82. This bed was in amazing shape for its age, but it had some problems. It's a bit cramped in here, but I'll do my best. I did some work on this side already a couple years ago. I had to stop because I just plain ran out of time, and this was before I had a place indoors to work on it. I painted it yellow because I didn't want it to rust, and primer will absorb water and cause the metal to rust. It was also a bit of a test to see if I could live with trim-clad yellow. I could not live with it. This is certainly not finished, and I'm going to have to strip some of this out because I can see a couple little bubbles coming back. But I ended up having to cut, I think it was about this much of it out because it was rusted out. I also welded up this seam, which I'll show you on the other side. I did that on this side and also on this side. On here I had to cut, I think, about that much of it out. There was also an enormous dent in this corner that I mostly popped out. It's close enough for what I'm going for, but you can see the nasty Bondo work that I didn't sand out completely because I just ran out of time. We'll go over to the other side now. This side was quite a bit better than the driver's side. So here I only had this little bit to cut out here, and there's one more spot in here. So you can see I started welding this up. I haven't ground it down, and I'm gonna have to go over it again because it's super ugly. But there's actually 3 pieces of metal in here. You've got the top bed skin, you've got the bottom, and you've got the floor, and they're all kind of sandwiched together here, which is why they rust out. I've got some good pictures that show that. I had to do the same thing on the back. There's just a little patch, I think, in this corner here, yeah. So, got to finish that. There's a bunch of things like this I need to fix. So what these are is, these old school first gen beds didn't have inner bed skins. So, say you have like a bunch of hammers in the back of your truck, you go around a corner, well, they all smash up against the side and they put little dents in. And of course they rust out because it breaks the paint. The inside of the bed is actually not too bad. There was 2 big strips that I had to fix, which are these. This one's not so bad. This one has a couple holes I need to fix. This side I fixed already, so this had quite a bad spot in it. Same with this. This was the worst spot in the whole truck, is this corner here. This is probably the second worst. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing, probably cut this out like that, weld in a new piece. Stuff like this, I think I can get away with just sandblasting it, but we'll see. And then the tailgate, I did a bunch of work on last year after I finished painting the cab. These corners were rusted out. There's quite a large dent in here. I got it mostly pulled out. I think the rest I can Bondo. But it was getting a little bit too cold. I don't heat this garage, and I was getting a lot of condensation, so I had to stop. I'm going to continue on the passenger side, get this going, and then I'm going to come back to the driver's side. So I remembered something when I was sanding this with the orbital. Every time you sand this, more high spots and more rust spots show up. So I was actually going to strip this all off with a wire wheel on my angle grinder. So maybe I'll do that. It's kind of hard to see, so I circled it with a marker. So these are all spots. You can kind of see the texture. So this part's okay. Of course, I have like this kind of runs all the way down. But look how many I've got over here. Oh. There's a ton back here. Lots of little ding, 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 ding. So, where's a good one? So you can see the dark spots here. So what would happen is I'd be sanding this and, oh, it would find a high spot. And then, oh, it's a little bit of rust, right? So you start sanding it and then before you know it, you have a giant spot like that. So by stripping it all like this, I can see it all in one shot and get rid of it all in one shot. So I'm going to use my sandblaster. This guy over here. This is a spot type sandblaster is what the box says. Basically, this little container here is full of sand, and this little bag collects the sand. So if I stick this on like that, pull the trigger, assuming I have a good seal, none of the sand goes anywhere. It just falls into this bag. Eventually this bag fills up, you dump it back into the tube, and away you go. It works pretty good. It doesn't make a big mess. I'm going to take care of this one right here. Not sure if this is going to come in the camera or not. But you can see a couple little dark spots in there still. That's rust. Still got to come out. Oops. That's pretty good. So I tried to save this section, but it's a little bit too pitted, so I'm going to have to cut it out. I had a lot of trouble on the other side recreating this shape, so I'm going to try to leave as much of it as I can. So I'm going to try to leave a little bit here, the original profile, so that I have something to line up with. I can run a straight edge over this or like a block when I get to sanding. So I'm going to cut this out here I'm going to cut along the inside to about here, and then I have to cut up into this bend. I'm not looking forward to that part. I'm going to hopefully weld up here, so I'm going to have, let's say, one piece here and one piece here, rather than just having one piece all the way. I think that'll be a bit easier to line up. So now that we've got our hole, we're going to make a new one of these. We'll cut it a little bit oversized. So I trimmed this piece down so it fits in the hole, but it's not quite finished yet. I gotta bend this. I gotta be careful, because if I bend it too far up, then this line will go up. So I think I'm gonna try to bend it a bit lower, because I can always put a little bit of body filler in there. So I'm gonna try to mark on this piece where the bend should be. That and between those points. There we go. And I gotta bend this up. Make sure I don't bend it the wrong way. I may end up having to make a few of these. This is where I would put it in my sheet metal brake, but I don't have one, so. Looks good. It works. There you have it. Hopefully that fits and lines up. So I cut this a little bit shorter than I should have. The gap is a little bit big, but I think it's okay because there's a bit of a high spot here anyway, so this needs to come in a bit. So I think it's okay. I can work with it. This seems to be really good, so when I weld this in, I'll make sure to line up this edge. I think right now it can come down just a smidge. And yeah, I think that'll work. I miss my auto darkening helmet. that's okay. I'm gonna let this cool before I do any more welding on it. Alright, took a while, but I got this patch welded in all the way around. Now I'm going to grind down the weld and see what gaps are missing. There's usually a couple spots that I have to touch up after. Alright, I ground it down. There was only a couple spots that I needed to fill with the welder, so not bad. This pulled in a little bit more than I wanted, but that's fine. This looks like crap, but that's okay because it's low, so I can fill over top of this with Bondo and sand it flush. Should be, quote unquote, easy. We'll see how that works out. Alright, I've got this side pretty much ready for primer. Before I spray any primer, I want to put some body filler on a couple of the patches that I welded in. So I'm going to put some Bondo over here, 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 and there was one bonus spot I had to do down here. Before I can put any Bondo on, I've got to rough up these areas with 80 grit. Before I put any Bondo on these, after I've sanded them, I'm going to wipe this down with some isopropyl. This will get rid of all the oils and pick up some of the dirt. Maybe not that much. Let's see how much garbage that picks up. Some of this is just dust. But yeah, you don't want that stuff in there. It's been a while since I've done anything with Bondo, so I'm not sure how much to mix. I'm going to mix it on this. You're not supposed to use cardboard, but this has like some kind of coating on it, so it should be okay. And squeegee it on. I don't want to push it in. I'll just smear it over top. It's probably good. Let's put some over here. On the back here. You want to push it into all the pores in the metal. Push it in, and then I kind of smooth it out a little bit. Smoother you put it on, the less sanding you have to do later. So it'll be a few minutes before I can sand this. But before it dries all the way, I'm going to hit it with a cheese grater. No, not that kind of cheese grater. This kind of cheese grater. So this is going to take off all the high spots. It's a lot faster than sanding. So while I wait for the Bondo to dry on the other side, might as well do some sanding on this side, because this is going to need a lot of sanding. I'm going to try hitting it with some 150 grit, see where we get. I already tried a little bit here, so I can already see a couple high spots and low spots, so I may have to switch out to a smaller block. I know I'm never going to be able to get this perfectly straight, so pretty good is what I'm shooting for. If you do use a block like this, Don't sand this way or this way. Always at an angle. Otherwise you get lines in it. You can see I've got a line. I forget exactly where it is. Somewhere in here. So one of the things I gotta fix. So my goal is to get all of this yellow paint off, get down with the primer. I'm gonna have to do some repair work in here and potentially clean up this edge because this is terrible. So I could sand this with a DA or an orbital, but I don't like to do that. I'd rather block sand it because at least I have half a chance of getting it straight. Now that I've done a bit of sanding here, you can see all the high spots and low spots. And the other thing you can see here are these lines. So before, when I was talking about always sanding at a diagonal, if you do this, you can get lines like that. So one of the things I had to do was I had to recreate this body line, and I had a heck of a time because there was nothing of the original line remaining on this side. I only had it on one side. I couldn't bridge the gap. If I had to do a patch here, and I left this and I left this, well, if I sand like this, that's no problem. It's going to sand the center part down to match these two spots. But I couldn't do that here. So what I ended up doing was I made a sanding block with a custom profile in it. I did this by gluing sandpaper to the door of my truck and then sanding down this foam and then gluing sandpaper to that. And I've got some tape on here so it wouldn't sand on the bottom. And basically, it just hooked on kind of like that. And if you'll notice, that lines up perfectly with that line that you see. So if this is sanded low compared to this. So I'm going to try to blend that out as best as I can, which is going to be a challenge because I don't want to wreck this part. So one of the reasons that I had stopped trying to paint the bed of the truck a long time ago was this spot right here. So if you look at the size of this bevel or chamfer compared to it over here, it's quite a bit bigger. And try as I might, I couldn't get it to look proper. And I didn't know what to do. But I was looking at this. It's low. So if I fill this bevel will get smaller. So that's good news. Also, I think about this much of this gets covered. So really, it's not that bad. That's great. There's a little bit of a low spot here from when I sanded it with that block I showed earlier. So I think if I fill this area here with some Bondo, let it dry, and then sand it, and a little bit in here, I think we'll be good on this side. Alright, this is dry enough to sand. I think I'm going to have to add some more here. There's a low spot, but it's fine. Gotta start somewhere, and this is the first of many applications of Bondo. So, same thing as before, I'm gonna stand at an angle, and hopefully this doesn't take too long. most of these edges feathered out. There's a couple low spots in here. This is the one that I saw earlier. But I wasn't expecting this to be a low spot, so I'll bring the camera around to show this a little bit better. So you can see how soft this transition here is from the Bondo to the regular paint or primer or whatever. But you see how sharp those edges are? I mean, I can feel this with my finger. So that would show up if I didn't do anything about it. So I'm gonna have to add some more Bondo over this part. So we've got a little bit of a low spot here and here. Now I could, take a piece of sandpaper in my hand and just feather that out, but you'll see that. Do I care? I'm not sure, but I have to add some more Bondo, so I might as well fix that properly, because that would look terrible if I didn't fix that. So while I was working on this panel, I noticed I have got a bit of an oil canning problem. According to the internet, I might be able to fix this with this. Let's see. So that has fixed my oil canning issue. I can't get it to pop in either direction, which is great. This panel is still, wonky, but at least it's going to stay one kind of wonky. I can fill this with Bondo, put a big skim coat, sand it flat, and it's done. And of course, we need some Bondo back here. It's finally time to spray some primer. I'm just going to make a small batch because I just have a little bit to spray. I just have a really cheap Princess Auto HVLP gun. I did get one of these cool adapters so I can use these disposable 3M paint cups. These are great because you don't have to clean up the stupid cup every time you want to change material. I really like that. I'm just going to put this aside for now. So I'm using some Endura sandable primer. Stuff's pretty good, it's cheap. Yeah, let's make some. So I got one of these little mixing cups and I've got the data sheet. So the mixing ratio here is 3 parts of A to 1 part of B. So if we look on our mixing cup, this is the one we want here, 3 to 1. We're not going to look at that last column. So I don't know how much I want to make. Maybe let's make 5. We'll go up to 5. gonna make a big mess, huh? I think that's going to do it. Just a couple more drops here. Okay. Yeah, so we're to the number 5 line. So now, part B. A little drop more. Mix it up. Okay, that's probably good. I forgot how messy this is. So then this little lid pops in, and don't forget this part. This little ring screws on them. That's it. That's ready to rock. So this just hooks on that, like that. Oops, just like that. I'm gonna try covering you with a sandwich bag. I don't know if this is gonna work. Hopefully the quality is still halfway okay. Oh. Alright, I've already blown this off and wiped it down, so it's ready for primer. Here goes nothing.